watch Survivor, and when the show ends, you really want to talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock Podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, Andy likes to yell and curse, and if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. Spend the whole time being jerks, telling you you're wrong, and so we got this other jerk to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast.
Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am John. My co-host is Andy, and this week we are talking Survivor 47, Episode 7. First of all, happy Halloween, Andy. I am dressed for this podcast as an American who is preparing for the real Night of Terror's election night, which brings me to ask, what is it like living in a country where elections just kind of happen and then people go back to their lives? Like it sounds very nice to not have pickups constantly driving around with flags for months on end. Is it nice?
Yeah, honestly, what I had hoped for is that like after like they switched to Kamala, we would just drop the writ and like have a whole ass election before, you even did. And that would have been funny because there was all like, oh, there's not enough time to do all of that, which to be fair, I think both you and I were like, is there enough time to do that? And then it'd be like, well, I mean, I could have like my entire country could have a full election, call it and start it and end it within that time. But that's not how it is, in part because, the party that gets to decide when we have an election really doesn't want to have one anytime soon. So,
also very excited that you started off this podcast pronouncing Kamala's name wrong. It's just, we stay on brand around here, and I think people appreciate that.
I feel like if that would be like a change of rules, like you can only pronounce people's names right from here on out, and then I'd be like, and then like right as we'd start, they would throw a wing, but Andy has immunity on that, and then I could just.
Can you imagine if a show were to do such a thing? It would be so confusing. Like, why? What even are they playing at?
It'd be hard to imagine how frustrating it would be for the participants to just be like, okay, what are we doing now?
It's almost like if you were playing a game and there were rules to the game, and then suddenly, haha, just kidding. Those aren't the rules to the game. Here's the new rules to the game. Oh, wait, I lied. There's a third set of rules to the game. So, yeah. That being said, what'd you think of the episode, Andy?
I mean, we are not people who like are constantly complaining about the changes. At some point, you just got to either accept Survivor where it lives, or I guess the other one is complain about it constantly. But that part we find doesn't make us happy people. So for the most part, we've shrugged our shoulders and be like, hey, just be like that sometimes. But I felt like this one was a lot. It was just like, okay, why just tell me what happens when we get to the end of this episode. There's really no value in trying to track it as it goes because the rug will just get pulled under people. So it's like, yeah, I mean, for the instance, he tells us we're doing it this way and like, so the thing we thought we avoided last week, we're just doing this week.
There you go.
And then we get to Saul's bit and I'm like, okay, whatever. All right, I'm no longer invested in what happens. Just wake me up when we get there.
Yeah. I mean, I had the exact same thought of like, oh, so we just did the last week thing this week instead. Cool. Because you and I had not so subtly pointed out that last week was basically what one might typically think of as, a coming together, a unification, a merge, if you will. And then
we're
this
finally
week,
merged.
Yeah, and then this week it's just like we're back to the fuckery. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know why. So here was the thing, because I at a certain point was like, man, this is just. We started the episode. There are 12 people eligible to be voted out, right? By the end of the episode, there were 4, and there could have been 3. If Sue played an idol, and it just seems nuts that with 12 people left, like only a third of people would be eligible to be voted out. Like possibly even less.
Yeah,
Like,
possibly a quarter. Yeah.
right. It's nuts. Like,
And then there's also shots in the dark. Like,
right. It wasn't even just like, oh, you've only got half the people eligible to be voted out. No, actually, you don't. Because, then you got someone with immunity and then you got someone that's leaving the tribal council. Like, all right, I guess. It's just, I don't know. As you said, it didn't allow for much in the way of like story development because you couldn't develop the story because very quickly, plot twist, you just have to react to the plot twist. And there wasn't much to make that. It just did make it feel kind of hand wavy, like, oh, look what's going on over here. And then the episode ends. Like, it was just a bunch of stuff that didn't ultimately matter. And then, oh, by the way, the 5 of you are going to vote. And that's it. Like, oh, okay. And one of you is immune.
And yeah, that's the option that you decided upon isn't an option at all. It's
right.
Just like, well, okay, sure, or whatever. Like, it's dumb. It's Calvin Ball. And like, it's just not fun to watch when it's like, again, twists are going to happen. Frankly, I can even argue, and I believe I have, that like the show has to throw curveballs at the people, otherwise the gameplay can get pretty boring.
Mm-hmm.
Although we've also argued that when they throw too many, the gameplay gets pretty boring.
Yeah,
because
nobody they get knows super what conservative, doing. Right?
But it was obvious, like from the moment that, like, at the very least, when Saul gets that piece of paper, it's like, okay, so nothing that we're really being shown here will matter depending on the choice that he makes. And even before that, it was like, okay, so it's 5 Tukus and Rachel. Okay, that's exciting. Like, it was just dumb all the way through. And in the end, I will say that, like, I guess any anger over people getting just screwed over by this, which again is a thing that I've just learned to accept, although like things like this have taken out really dynamic players in the past. I wasn't really all that worried about that happening tonight. I didn't really feel all that bad for Tiyana, like on a human level, because she was clearly crushed. You feel bad that way. But it's just like, I didn't feel like she was really screwed here. Because I called it 2 weeks ago. You weren't here, and you didn't listen. But I was like, well, when she screwed up that Survivor social hours, it's like, okay, Tiyana's going home soon. Like, She's not long for this game. So, like, it ended up with all the different twists and turns and all that it ended up being closer than it was. But, like, there's a non-zero chance that if they just had done a straight-up vote, 11 out of 12 people are eligible and everybody's voting, she might have just gone home anyway, so it's like, I didn't feel like, oh no, like Tiyana's like long-term plans were thrown off here. I think she had already played herself into a bad spot, but that's not why she went home tonight so much. It's whatever.
I mean, ultimately, she was screwed by the rock draw, like a random rock draw, because if they'd only had 4 of their tribe there, I think she actually ends up surviving that. I think it's because all 5 of them were there. Like, I think they actually would have kept her for one more vote.
If Rachel doesn't go home, I think, or like if Rachel doesn't leave the tribal council, I do believe they were all going to vote for her. So
right, but I'm saying then.
But yes, if it was somebody else instead of Sue from a different tribe, then they just would have. Okay, let's just swap.
Exactly. Yes.
But I also argue, like, the only reason she's safe is because they had those numbers and all of that. Like, if it had been like if she had been in a situation where there's 3 Tukus and 3 Lavos, and like, I think she would have gone home in that scenario, because depending, I guess, on who the other 2 are. But if it's like Gabe and Sue, they'd just take her out. Like, I feel like she had already done enough in the game that I'm not like, oh no, her whole path to victory was taken out here. But yeah, I mean, whatever would have happened tonight to anyone, it would have been like, okay, I don't know what they're supposed to do with that.
Right. There wasn't a whole lot in terms of what she could have done to save herself. It did also, like, the random rock draw thing really does set up those sorts of things where, like, it's a matchup thing, like NBA playoffs, where you're like, well, I mean, this team's fine unless, of course, they go up against this team. And it was sort of the same thing here. Like, well, Tiyana would have been fine in certain scenarios, right? But like this scenario, oh no, she's screwed. Absolutely. Yeah. And then the other scenario you mentioned, yeah, probably screwed there too, because I think her group would be willing to throw her under the bus.
Yeah. And then, like, the other thing also takes a bit of the sting off of it. Well, I mean, the biggest thing that takes the sting off of it is that I don't really care about her. Many of the characters so far this season, but the other one is like, if Tuku had gone to another tribal council, she would have left the game then. So she was already kind of on borrowed time. So, like, if we're assessing, like, who would have been most damaged by this, like that otherwise had good opportunities in this game, I think she ranks the lowest of the people who were there, even lower than Rachel. So like in that respect, it's like, well, you know, in some ways, no harm, no foul, but more importantly, like no fun. This isn't fun.
Well, what did you think of the argument that the Tuku crew needed to vote out one of theirs to avoid being the targets when it goes back to the next vote?
I get it, and I think there's something to it. Like, I do think if there were 5 of them left, they'd be targeted. But it's also kind of like, well, I better stab myself or this robber will get me. Like, I don't know if voting one of your people out so that you can be protected is any different than not voting out one of your people and then one of your people getting voted out next. Like, what are you gaining here? If they had voted out one of their, which they ended up doing, are people now less threatened by them because there's 4 instead of 5? So like 4 is still more than, well, I guess it's the exact same number as Gata, yep. But Andy isn't really part of them anymore. Not that they know that.
I think it's just players get influenced by recent seasons, right? So it does make sense that they'd be worried about there being like a strong tribe that's going to stick together. But even in that scenario, right? Like you stay the 5 of you for this one, and then next vote, you're like, guys, it's nothing to worry about. Like, we're not that tight. Like, we will definitely take out Tiyana here.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, that's it. You fixed it, because they're like, oh, okay, well, we were worried you guys were all going to be, you know, sticking up for each other. No, actually, we're good. We're, you know, we want to take out Tiyana too. And then they do it. And then everybody's like, oh, okay. So that there was no reason to worry about that. We're good. So yeah, ultimately, like you said, why do it now? Just move ahead to the next vote.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, I don't know that like 5 of them voting out for the one person that was gifted towards them is like, oh, now everybody will know we're together. It's like, right. Or it's just fucking obvious, right? Yes. Particularly not doing it, I think would just be like, what are you trying to prove here? Who are you trying to fool? And I mean, I liked what Carolyn said about it. It's like, yeah, okay, it might be damaging for some of us, but not for you and me, Tiyana. Like, they'll come after Gabe. They'll come after Kyle, in which case, again, if what we're trying to do is vote out somebody to prevent them from voting one of us out, then I don't know what we're achieving. The net effect is still one of us is going to be leaving in the next 2 votes. So how about we just get this one gone and keep it moving and see what happens next.
See, it's funny that you say that about Caroline's decision making, because I was listening to her argument and I was like, I just really hope this doesn't make her game crash into a ditch. Because her logic, they would go after like Gabe or Kyle first. I mean, again, I'm maybe making some assumptions here, but it falls apart when you remember that she's telling us like Rachel is the most dangerous player in the game, right? So she's presumably saying like Gabe and Kyle are like the easy targets for, I guess, challenge prowess, probably. Like maybe you could make an argument strategy for Gabe, but it seems like a stretch. But Rachel's neither of those things, and Rachel's the most dangerous. Like, does she just assume no one else thinks like her? Is that what's happening here? Yeah, okay. So Caroline's decision
which is what makes Rachel so dangerous, is other people aren't seeing the danger Caroline is seeing.
Gotcha. Did she consider that, you know, people would need to eventually see the danger if Rachel was going to win? Because there's a lot of people that you don't see the danger from because such danger doesn't exist.
Yeah, sometimes they're Kensies as well.
Sure.
I'd say the other thing, of course, what was really going on with Carolyn is like, no, I don't want to vote out Gabe.
Yep.
Frankly, I value his presence in the game more than I value yours, Tiyana.
Yep.
So I think like what she said is like, yeah, no, it could be a problem, but kind of like what we're saying, and you laid out first. We'll just sell one of us out next time. Like, it's fine. We don't have to do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the part I can't say to you is it's you that we're gonna sell out. Like, I'm okay. My number one ally is Sue, who has an idol, and her, she's really committed to working with Gabe. So no, but I don't want to turn it down in case, who knows? Maybe the three of us are the only people eligible to be voted next week. But really, the subtext of it all was probably just like, well, no, I don't want to do that because I don't actually want to vote out Gabe.
Hey, by the way, a thing that I had forgotten, Tiyana was the only other one who had connected the dots and knows about that idol. So I'm sure they were like, well, this is a gimme, like, oh, bonus. We can basically hide the body of the only other person that would have been able to sell Sue out. Not that people couldn't maybe put some stuff together because, the red ink and the crashed pot, people were definitely thinking idol. So it's just a matter of Tiyana knew who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, they had two freebies. It's kind of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reflected in Gabe's approach to, what if, she plays a shot in the dark. And the thing that he's smart about is well, the person who's playing the shot in the dark doesn't have a vote. So we don't actually need to tie a vote. We can just handle it in the next vote, which is great if you're not the target of the next vote.
Yep. That is the one place where that perfectly sound plan falls apart.
Yeah. Now, again, the other part he said is also pretty accurate. It's it's the long odds. It certainly could happen, but basically potentially screwing up our alliance and throwing all this division over a 20% chance is probably not worth it. Instead, we'll scrap it out when it happens, which is kind of what happened. And, to his credit, which I don't like doing, I think he knew where the next vote would go if it came down to it.
Yeah, I think ultimately he knew there were three of them that would vote a certain way, and that's all he'd need.
Yeah.
So it's really there's no threat to Gabe to suggest this.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that they're just worried about her shot in the dark. It's well, what about an idol, though? For an idol, then you do need to have that other vote going.
Sure.
And, they just kind of dismissed the idea that Rachel would have an idol.
Correctly so, apparently.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. There was not contingency planning for that. I guess they thought that was even longer odds than a shot in the dark.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe, I guess at that point. Although really, it's a 1 in 4 chance so that if somebody had the GATA idol, it would be her, which is better than 1 in 6. But I suppose there's also the possibility that nobody has it.
Right. And also, Gabe having had the early tribal idol might think oh, maybe it was, they had a one-time use idol or something like that. And it's already, she used it or they tried to use it and now it's gone.
And no idol was put in place.
I mean,
not even with a bucket of red paint.
He wouldn't have any idea.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's just the thing people need to remember is you don't actually have to counter the shot in the dark holders vote because they don't have one. But yes, I can't remember who it was that went home when Caleb's shot in the dark hit. But that woman would have been well positioned if she had voted for somebody that wasn't Caleb. But in a small, I still support it. Especially in a small vote scenario, you can't plan for every contingency. So, deal with it when it comes, and it worked. That's basically what happened. She was no longer eligible to be voted for, and they kept it moving.
Yep. So earlier in this episode, though, there was the proposition that, hey, why not us women? Why don't we all just band together? And then they got to play that flashback clip that we've probably seen 20 times of the Black
Every
Widow
time
alliance.
this comes up.
Yes. Ever since they've started doing flashbacks, I feel like this has made it into every single season. 4 women, just 5 women. 4? 5.
It was 5.
5. Yeah. Okay. I almost left out the very forgettable Alexis. Anyway, so yeah, we see that and it's like, oh, okay. So we're going to do a women's alliance. How invested were you in this women's alliance?
So since it was on the next time in Survivor, I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. So like before this episode even started, it's like, yeah, there's not going to be a women's alliance. So yeah, no, I did not believe for a second. I mean, I guess there's still time. We only lost one of them, but like in this specific instance, especially, it's like I'm not seeing anybody talking to Sue, for instance.
Yep. Actually, it's funny that you specifically mentioned her because, especially with so many women, like to paraphrase a quote from an early Survivor season, we can't have a women's alliance because Sue sucks. Like, I don't think Sue would have gone in on that anyway.
Nope.
I don't know that Caroline necessarily would have either, but nope. Like, yeah. I
don't even know if Genevieve is down for it. And here's the thing. The reason why is because women's alliances are bad. That's all. Not because women are bad, not because they always fall apart. It's because your goal when playing Survivor should be to set up the circumstances for you to win. It shouldn't be about the sisterhood, right? And like even the one that gets held up. And we discount like Vanuatu, which fell apart obviously, and One World because like that was also the original tribe. So there's 2 dynamics at play there. But like, everybody's like points to the Black Widow Alliance. That's the time it worked. It's like, well, I mean, it worked for Parvati.
Right.
It didn't really work all that well for Alexis. Didn't really work all that well for Natalie, whose only move once it got to Final Four is like, all right, ladies, go get them. Like, frankly, those 2 women would have been far better off working with idiots like Jason and Eric.
Yep.
People they could have beaten rather than, you know what? I'm going to team up with these 3 former survivors and I'm going to make this happen because will ladies be doing it on their own? No, you can't have another purpose to your game in Survivor. Your game is help you win. And I know, like, so you think that those 2 align, right? It's like, well, if I'm pushing for women to win and I'm a woman, then it'll work out. But the problem is what happens is you always get a few suckers who are more committed to the cause than the cause of winning money for themselves. And they get beaten by the people who are more committed to the cause of winning money for themselves. It's just incongruent. So this is not where you enact your social agendas. It's a game where you eliminate people by decision making. It's just, this isn't a social effort. I don't know. That's my rant.
I think the thing for me is that there's just no unifying force to this, right? Like it was no, oh man, we really have to band together because the guys are so like whatever, or just, oh man, ladies, we all got to come together because we got to take out X, Y, and Z. No, it was just like, hey, we're ladies. How about that, huh? Alliance?
There's more women than men at that point when they're talking about it.
And
they're not even the minority.
Right. And it's a lot harder, I think, to convince the women that they need to band together when like women have been winning in the post-40 era at like a decent clip, right? Like it's not like I would understand if it had been like, damn, it's been like 8 seasons in a row, a woman hasn't won. Like we really got to do something to up our odds, right? Even if it doesn't last forever, like we got to, take out some of these guys. That's not true. Like there's just no rallying cry. There's nothing you can get behind other than like, oh, we're ladies. Want to all vote together? That's not enough.
Yeah. And like, I'll say that like maybe some of them are really thinking short terms, like one less guy on the jury. And I can support that. And I think if there was a different configuration, then I'd be like, sure. Yeah, I'm good to take out any of these guys in one vote. But just like the idea that like we need to band together to win. No, you don't. You don't,
Nope.
And like if you're Genevieve, is Rachel and Sierra better for your game than Andy? I don't think they are, like what does teaming up with them do for you specifically other than keep people who are probably more dangerous in the game around longer? Frankly, probably even more dangerous in like short-term scenarios of like challenges, because the challenges that you would probably that are more catered to women are going to be harder to win if there's more women, you know?
Right. And there are some of those. I mean, we've
There
talked,
absolutely is.
you know, over the years. Like there's some that come up that definitely advantage certain body types or certain people. Yeah. And so, you know, when you then have a lot more of those people, it's like, oh, well, shit, my odds have really gone down at winning this challenge.
Yeah. So, it's again, like, I understand why fans get excited about it, but as a player, your objective isn't to like help, you know, a social class do well. Your objective is to win money. It's a solo game. Like, again, this is where, like, yeah, it's like, well, my feminism won't allow me to do that. Your feminism shouldn't be, you know, zero sum, right? Like in real world, like we can raise all boats. In Survivor, you can't. It's zero sum. There's one winner and everybody else is losers. So the idea that like, and I think we've seen it fall apart because what ends up happening is you're going to have to vote out women, you know, like that's.
Yeah, eventually.
Even if you get like every man out first, you got to vote each other out. And what will end up happening is like there's probably going to be one guy that maybe wins immunity or like it just isn't as dangerous as the other women. And now you haven't just betrayed an alliance partner, like you've betrayed feminism. You're like, that's tough. And we saw it not with the women's alliance, but in 41, where the black contestants got together until they were like, well, man, the main competitor right here is another black contestant. It got really heated and ugly as a result. So like, again, and look, cards on the table. I fully understand that, like, I am not a minority in any way, shape, or form, right? Like, obviously, I can't relate to that, but I just don't think it's a good idea. Now, look, if somebody proposes to you that it's like, hey, how about the people who share the traits that you do stick together and vote out people that don't have it? Then you say, yes, of course. But you shouldn't be looking to do it. You know, all alliances in Survivor should be designed to help you win Survivor. And I just can't believe that, like, well, the only thing that we need to have in common is our sex.
Right.
Oh, man. It's like, okay, is somebody dumber than you that you can beat? Is there somebody who will share information with you? Like, some of these women just met and it's like, oh, yeah, no, it's got to be us. And look, for some of those women, great idea. Tiyana, Rachel, they really don't have a lot of good alliances otherwise. But yeah, if you're like Genevieve or Sierra or something, it's like, you're probably already, and definitely if you're Sue and Carolyn, what you have going into that is probably better suited to what your objectives are than just being like, well, hey, man, women rule, boys drool. And it should be noted, like, the idea of men's alliances is even more laughable, which is why there really hasn't been any. You know, there's certainly been situations where men went to the end, but it wasn't like, we men. Like, those ones fall apart instantly all the time. It's just aligning yourself just based on, you know, that is a dumb way to play Survivor.
Now, that might have been a dumb decision, but Saul had one to make, which we didn't see the outcome of until the middle of Tribal Council. Well, I guess towards the end of Tribal Council, because it was time to vote.
That's the other thing. We sat through a whole Tribal Council where they're just being like, hey, so 5 is more than 1, right? And they're like, it felt like at least 5 minutes of that. And like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
None of this matters. Can we just skip to that part? But no, they made us wait the whole time.
It was just this whole song and dance number that just wasn't relevant to the plot. It sucked. So anyway, Saul's decision. Ultimately, we see him once he gets it. He's like, oh, you know, I could give this to Rachel, or I could blah, blah, blah. I could go. Regardless, we kind of figured he's giving it to Rachel because there's already been enough talk at that feast that they were having. Like, oh, yeah, if they come back 5 strong, we got to go after them, blah, blah, blah. So do you think that Saul then made the right decision in protecting Rachel?
Yeah, there was no other decision. Yeah, like, good on him for finding the other thing so that he could give production a clip that will allow to present some kind of mystery. But frankly, like, I don't know that this is going to help him build any bonds with Rachel. I don't know if, like, it's actually useful in that regard. Hey, I helped you. Especially because if he chooses somebody in Tuku, is he even helping them? He's helping them in the sense that, hey, you got to vote out Rachel. You know, like, they don't need the help.
So I understand his logic, but honestly, letting that blue tribe stay 5 strong kind of, for Saul specifically, in the short term, guarantees that people are going to need him to vote them out. Like, I mean, I did suggest that, like, the Tuku just might give up Tiyana in the next episode. But regardless, it might be nice for Saul to be like, hey, I'm needed now because, we've got to go after this group of 5. Now that they're a group of 4, do we need Saul so much?
You know what? I didn't think of that at all. Obviously, I was like, there was no decision.
I mean,
I kind of see what you're saying here.
It's
like, does Rachel staying actually help him at all?
Exactly, because he is, to be fair, in a group of 3, which is probably not very threatening, and generally that group of 3, when these sorts of situations happen, they get like scooped up by other people to make a larger alliance, which could certainly happen here. But if the Tuku group comes back with 5, they almost definitely get scooped up because they need to be in order to make sure that group of 5 doesn't stay a group of 5. And that'll get you, at least 1 vote. Maybe it gets you 2, and then at that point, he's had some more time to establish potential alliance partners. He's worked himself into some useful grouping, whatever it might be. As it is now, what is he getting out of it? Like you said, I don't know that Rachel's going to come back and be like, Saul, you saved me. You're the best, buddy. We're working together from here on out. Maybe, but I don't know.
But
I'm not
the
convinced.
way it is, it's not like a real sacrifice. Like, playing your idol from somebody is a real sacrifice.
Right. He had to give this.
Yeah, the show is just like, you got to do it. And then it chose the obvious choice. It's like, oh, hey, thanks. You saved me in the game. But not at any expense to you.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't some just like sacrificial gesture. He gave nothing in order to do this. It was just like, oh, of the people that you could have given it to, you picked me, the obvious one to give it to. Like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but I actually like what you're thinking. I almost certainly would have just done what he did, in part just because it's like, well, I'm doing something. Like, oh, let's see what happens type deal. And maybe that's, in the end, that's all it is. Like, the whole merge right now is just so new that, like, knowing which path is more advantageous one way or another is probably hard anyway. Like, Saul is probably going to be a target in the near term pretty soon anyway, no matter what decision. But it's like, this way I can actually affect the tribal council. And does that do anything for me? Who knows? But it's cool and fun. Like, I did something. Like, that's the thing. Like, he can feel like he did something.
And that is exactly what happened. I think that was the big motivator. That's why you pick Rachel, because then that it will have a consequence, right? It'll be used. She will save herself. Like, there is a predictable outcome with that. If you just gave it to, who knows, Kyle, Tiyana, well, it would make sense to Kyle. What's he going to do? Like, I'm pretty safe anyway.
Well, he'd block a vote, I guess.
Right, sure. But yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to affect much. So at the very least, he's like, well, I'm, guaranteeing that this advantage that I got will get played. And, did screen time factor into his equation? I don't know. But at that point, that it's going to get shown because Rachel's going to save herself from being voted out.
Yeah. How about that screen time, though? Like, yeah. Well, how do you feel about Saul's acting?
Sure. I was totally convinced. I feel like,
I mean, obviously we know, so it's hard to judge, but hey, I feel, I don't know if anybody else was clocking it. Like, I think he did enough and it was hammy enough for me to enjoy it.
Yeah. He oversold a little.
Again, that I enjoyed any of this. Again, most of it I just didn't enjoy. I'm just like, okay, whatever. So this Deus Ex Machina puts Rachel in danger, and then another Deus Ex Machina comes around to take her out of it.
But I mean, ultimately, though, he's got to know that it can't really stay a secret for that long, right? Because like she just
Well,
very publicly said like, oh, I got this advantage that someone over there gave to me. And eventually they're going to figure it out.
I don't know. They might not. Again, like, especially if he never tries to capitalize on it, like, it was me, then everybody will just assume it was one of them. Maybe they'll all assume it was Andy because they saw him looking for stuff. It'd be kind of funny if everybody assumes it's Andy while he's going to be working to get rid of Rachel,
Right?
The rest of Gata.
And then Saul's like trying to take credit, like, no, actually, it was me. And they're like, yeah, sure, it was Andy, buddy. He already took credit.
Don't embarrass yourself.
Right? So. Come on, this is ridiculous. So speaking of Andy, at the start of this episode,
favorite thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. At the start of this episode, we got the Andy focus. We see him figuring out that he was the backup plan in the last vote, and he's like scrawling stuff into the sand. I mean, slightly later, but it did make me think of that meme where the woman's looking and all the numbers are flashing on the screen. Just like the like analog version of that meme. So Andy now is on the warpath. He's got a revenge plan. He's got a new number one ally. And does that to you signal that it was a bad idea to keep him over Anika?
No, not. I don't think that's where it fell out. Yeah, I still think it was fine for Sam to favor Andy over Anika, but then you can't sacrifice him in the next vote. That's where it fell apart. Like I think Andy would totally be Team Gata, Team Sam and Sierra if they weren't like, yeah, we could put Andy as the decoy. It's fine by us. And like, I mean, I even understand why Sam and Sierra agreed to it. They're on the spot. There aren't as many of them. Sue throws it out and be like, oh, yeah, I guess so. But then you got to tell Andy, like, they want you as a decoy. What should we do? So choosing him 2 votes ago, fine. But you kind of have to commit to it. And that's where they fell down. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since I enjoyed Anika and I don't really enjoy Andy, I feel like, sure, I would have liked if they kept Anika. But ultimately, I think you're right. I think you could have actually kept Andy and even just tipping him off to the fact that like, oh shit, I really don't want to do this, but like you're being made the backup plan and I can't steer votes away from that. So like, we're just, we're going to hope it's Rome and we're doing everything we can, but we're only 2 people. We can't totally protect you.
Yeah. Or maybe you should vote for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
sure.
it would be like a tie, and then
right.
See what happens. Well, here's another reason why, like, you have to argue, like, if they're like, oh no, Sam totally should have voted out Annie and kept Anika. I mean, again, the episode did open with a bunch of young women getting together and saying, hey, well, we vote out all the dudes, which is exactly why Sam didn't want to vote Andy in the original tribe. So to now sit here and be like, it was foolish of him to worry about a potential women's alliance. I don't know that I can do that.
I mean, sure. Insofar as that women's alliance was ever going to happen, which I think we both were not remotely confident that it was.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't in part because just I've seen Survivor before.
Correct.
But like, that would be one more woman, right? Like, maybe at that point they don't need Sue and Carolyn. I don't know. Like again, I don't know if Anika adds a lot in that regard, but since that was the logic that Sam was applying, I can't say that logic was now proven to be faulty. I think it's still accurate. It's just you should have done better managing Andy as an alliance partner if you decided that he was going to be your alliance partner.
If they need some classes on Andy management, let me know. I'm a long time expert in that field.
I think the waveforms would argue otherwise.
It's very true. It is not without its difficulties. So I was thinking, I'm watching this episode. I see this group of 6. They win the immunity challenge, which sure, they are 6 of the fucking 8 people that are immune.
Kyle wins immunity. He finished 3rd.
I feel really bad because I was doing like some fantasy standings updating today, and I'm like, all right. I mean, two women beat him, and they're gonna get fewer points than he did for coming in third. I was like, this really feels like a
It doesn't
patriarchy
seem
move
right.
here. I know. I'm like,
But-
oh man.
And I've been a big proponent of this the whole way since like 41. And there's been times you push back because you're like, that's dumb. That's unfair. And I'm like, yes, it's dumb, but that's the show.
Right.
It's not on us to make the show less dumb. So like, yeah, when they take in reverse time by breaking an hourglass, yeah, sorry, you got to take those immunity points away from one team and go to the other for doing nothing.
Right.
Because that's what the show determined. So yes, the show determined that Kyle is the only immunity. He wore the fucking necklace, so he's the only individual immunity award winner, despite the fact that, yes, he finished third.
But you know what they could not take away from them as well is baby back ribs. And I'm sitting there watching these people and I'm thinking, man, I want my baby back ribs. And that got me to thinking, I love commercial jingles, Andy. I feel like this week, our top 3 should be top 3 commercial jingles. What do you think?
Absolutely, because as soon as Jeff said baby back ribs, that was in my head.
Yep.
Like, that's it.
As it should be.
In fact, I thought it was going to be like the Chili's reward.
Mm-hmm. Reasonable assumption. It's not like it's without precedent. So, I mean, fast casual chains and Survivor, like, is there
Hand in glove.
Exactly. So I'll let you start. What's your number 3 for top 3 commercial jingles?
First, I'm just going to do an honorable mention because this is just local. So, like, unless you live near me, you wouldn't know it at all. But there's a car dealership that's in a small town, not even it's north in the province I live in. And I don't know the whole thing, but it ends in cars cost less than Wetaskiwin. And it's just anytime I drive by Wetaskiwin, it's on the side of the highway. So I'm going from the city I live in to the other major city in my province without fail. Cars cost less than Wetaskiwin. So it's just, it's there. If any of you actually know this, obviously then I'll know what province you live in. I don't know why I'm being cagey. I
Right.
feel like
I was
talked
gonna
about
say.
the province I live in. Playing. So it's a small town in Alberta. Now, one thing why it wouldn't be effective is if there's multiple car dealerships in Wetaskiwin, then the other one is totally drafting off the success of this jingle. But I suspect that it was, at the very least, at the time that the ad came out, it was the only one. Because it's
the car dealer there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's frankly, it's we're going by, it's like, hey, do we need a car? Because I hear that they cost less here. It's just, and I'm not even sure because I doubt I'm getting Wetaskiwin TV in Calgary, but I did live in Edmonton for a year. So it could be 20 some odd years ago. We're on 25 years ago that I heard this, and it's living there forever.
Wow.
And that's where I'm going on when I'm talking about my top 3 commercial jingles. Obviously, if they're catchy, good or whatever, but it's if they stick.
Yeah.
That's the goal and the effectiveness of a jingle. So my number 3 is going to be the baby back ribs one.
Oh, and well deserved.
Baby back.
I mean, it's right. Because similarly, as he says, baby back ribs, I'm like, oh, Chili's.
Yeah.
It's just, they are forever inextricably linked. Chili's and baby back ribs. That is now what I associate with Chili's.
There will never be a time in my life when I hear the term baby back ribs and I don't think of that jingle. And I confidently say that. I was going to caveat, unless I have crippling dementia. But the thing about dementia is you'll remember music.
Yeah,
and
that
not
would be the thing you'd
other
remember.
things. So I could be here not knowing who my children or wife is, and then somebody baby back ribs, we're baby back. So yeah, I mean, frankly, as saying that, maybe I'm ranking it too low, but I'm starting my list with number 3. Baby.
So that was actually my number 2. And I would also point out, that shit was in an Austin Powers movie. Just quoting it because it was so part of the cultural zeitgeist. People were like, oh yeah, I get it. You're doing the Chili's
covered
thing.
it,
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's well deserved. And whoever made that fucking jingle deserves all the cash. I hope they got a decent chunk of steak in Chili's because they deserve it.
Yeah. I bet they didn't, they did that work on spec. And
They got 50 grand.
Yeah.
That's it. They could maybe buy a car in Wetaskiwin with that money.
Wetaskiwin, that's right, where cars cost less.
That's right. So my number 3 is that, well, actually, shit, you took my number 2, so that's all right. I'll just do my number 3 is there's this famous American brand. Perhaps you've heard of it. They sell sandwiches, Andy. And at one point, long before Joe Biden made everything cost $1 bazillion, they used to sell a 12-inch sandwich for $5 American, Andy. I think that's like 27 Canadian. I don't remember the currency exchange. It's something like that. But that's less catchy than when you say it in American, $5 foot long.
So I would get those commercials because we get American TV, but never in my life did I get that price. It's just, even that back then, before Joe-flation, Biden created inflation in only one country in the world.
That's right. He's a very powerful inflation maker, that man.
I don't believe that subs were ever $5 for us.
Oh, that's too bad, because it happened at a time when I was still pretty poor. And admittedly, they were not as cheap at that time as they were when I was in college and my roommate worked there, and they were free because we were stealing them. But $5 was still a pretty decent deal. So yes, I was still poor enough at that phase of my life to be like, yes, that is my dinner because it's $5. And I have $5. I'm poor, but I can pull off a $5 dinner. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I was not just killing it in the dating scene at that time. You know, you'd be shocked to learn that the ladies were not like, oh, I want to score a $5 foot long. This man seems like someone I need to hitch my wagon to. Nope.
College students should be poor.
They should.
It's unfortunate that, like, you know, social media has probably created this pressure for college students now. Like, they want to date to like flex. No, man, like, everybody should be living off meal plans. And that's the other thing, like, you know, the $5 footlong, but like a lot of places had value meals that you could get. And obviously, you know, money's worth more, inflation, all that, yada, yada. But man, I don't know. Like, hopefully, like, ramen is still cheap and stuff. So, man, we were so poor.
I mean,
and I was working. Like, I worked like sometimes 30 hours a week.
Same.
I did not have a lot of money for food.
It blows my kid's mind when I, like, you know, I do the grandpa routine. I'm like, gather around. Let me tell you about when I was in college and I had $4 pizza. Like, kids love to hear that kind of stuff. It's a great tale.
And I know, I get it. Like, we sound like our dads being like, oh, I used to go to movies for $0.25. But like, it feels, it's just like $18 for a McDonald's meal is just should never feel right. Should just not, maybe $18 is high. I don't know. 14.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
So anyway,
all right. Anything more to say about your?
No, that's I don't think I've ever talked that much about Subway in my life. So let's instead.
Well, I'm
move
just
on
saying,
to,
like, do you have any other thoughts about your number 2, or we covered that one?
I mean, we hit Chili's pretty well. So
yeah,
on to your number 2.
Give me a break. Give me a break. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar, which is very topical for tonight.
Is indeed quite timely. It being Halloween, Kit Kats were among the candy that I passed out tonight.
Yeah.
So,
and it's actually, I mean, obviously the number one thing is catchy and simple and sticks in your head, but also it really speaks to, you know, like the value proposition of a Kit Kat, because like, if you're not breaking off a piece and eating it, if you're like just taking bites of it, like a chocolate, like just a normal chocolate bar, you're a fucking psychopath. Right. And I don't ever want to be in your presence.
They are like, they are basically perforated. Like, why wouldn't you tear them?
So, you know, it's effective in both ways.
Agreed. It's not only putting the thought of Kit Kat into your head, it's reminding you how it should be consumed.
And how it's different than other chocolate bars.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. I mean, sure, there's probably other chocolate bars where you break off a piece, but not the same. It's not as pleasurable of like breaking off like a square of like a chocolate bar as it is that clean break.
Well, that's the thing is, you know, if you're trying to do like a Hershey bar. Like it's not necessarily always easy. You want to get that corner rectangle. Like, oh man, you got to get both the down and the across. Like you might snap off part of the next
usually
rectangle.
you do. Yeah, there's like a little triangle.
Yeah,
but not with a Kit Kat, man.
No, clean break.
When we're done, I'm gonna go raid my kids' candy and bring off a piece of that action.
All right, so my number one, which whether or not you ever got this one in Canada, I don't know, but I would think that you will at least get the reference that came from it, which is the Mentos song.
Yes.
So Mentos, it was so fucking ubiquitous on like the music channels, specifically the music channels, that like Foo Fighters back in the day was like, we're just going to make a fucking music video that's just a parody of a Mentos commercial. Like, because Foo Fighters was a huge band at the time and Mentos was just never ending advertisements on MTV. And it was just like, all right, yeah, we're going to reference this shitty, chewy mint thing and make like a whole music video referencing that commercial. Like, that's how pervasive that shit was.
I named intramural sports teams the Fresh Makers
See?
back in the day as a result. Now, like the jingle itself would sometimes change depending on like the contents of the commercial, but then it would get to like the chorus, you know, fresh goes better with
Mentos freshness. Exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever had the fruit flavored Mentos?
I probably did back in the day.
Those fuck. All right. The mints suck, but the fruity ones, I'll rock with that.
Yeah. The mint were pretty ass though. They were not good.
It's not fucking candy. What are we doing here? All right. So my number one is the GOAT jingle of all time. That like if you start singing it, like it released as a single, put it in the clubs. Toys R Us.
Yes, I debated that one too. I actually didn't know if like was Toys R Us Canadian. Did they have any?
Not only was it Canadian, it is still
what?
Like, it's not. We have Toys R Us. They shut down in the U.S., but they did not shut down in Canada.
Do you have Blockbuster still?
No,
okay,
but that's not. You know, toys aren't outdated technology, right? Like, it's not quite the same comparison.
I mean,
yours was killed by fucking venture capitalists. That's what happened. It wasn't that the business wasn't profitable.
You know,
it's that they sunk a bunch of debt into it. But because the Canadian corporation was a separate entity, they were allowed to survive.
But you say it's not, toys aren't outdated, but the song specifically mentions bikes and trains. I guess, you know, bikes not necessarily. Those are.
I feel kids still ride bikes.
Barely. I mean, if you live in the American suburbs, you can't. There's just where are you going to ride it to? Because, you know, there's like 6-lane highways everywhere because it's all built around the idea of cars. So if you
see, I live in a city with a lot of bike lanes, so you know,
must be nice.
Yeah,
way to flex.
That was important to me right there. No, I mean, they won't fall apart into sinkholes filled with alligators, so that helps too. But of course, you know, unless you're really hardy, you can only use them 4 months a year. Although there's plenty of people who do. They just get like these thick tires that are out there in the winter. Like, what are you trying to prove here?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think kids still like trains, like even those creepy ones with the fucking eyes that are like the most sophisticated rail system in the world for the tiny island. You know, that's, I think, a thing. So, no, man, like the toys are like, so here's the thing. When you shop at Toys R Us here in Canada, a thing you can do, they'll play the jingle in store. Like, it's just part of the playlist of the thing. So it'll never leave my life.
It's the vibe. Because
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
There's a million toys at Toys R Us that you can play with.
From bikes to trains to video games.
It's the greatest toy store there is.
I don't want to grow up because if I did,
you wouldn't be a Toys R Us kid. I mean, obviously. So I think, you know, there are occasionally like top threes that we do. And I expect a certain level of response. Obviously, we can get pretty niche on some of these. And it's like, oh, okay, fucking like NBA and hip hop crossovers. Like, that's a very narrow segment of people who listen to this podcast that would be able and want to participate in a conversation about that. I feel like everybody has their jingles that they're like, oh man, this motherfucking song has been in my head for 15 years or whatever. So send us your top 3 jingles you can text them to us. As a reminder, we can't text you back. So it's great if you want to share. We're not going to text you back. Don't be like, hey, what was that one song? I don't know. I can't text you back. So,
I mean, we might know, but we can't.
I mean, right, exactly. We'll know and I'll think about it, but I won't text you back because I cannot actually do that. So,
speaking of that, like at the fan mail that you can leave on our website, shocking as hell that the person who suggested we should do an Alanis list, 22 years old.
What?
Yeah, man, it was the 22-year-old. I mean, unless they're just going for stolen valor here, but I'm just going to trust them. Actually, you know what? The app does bunch. Like, we don't know who you are unless you tell us, but it does like bunch. If they came from the same number, they'll be bunched together. We do like the last 4 digits. So I can confirm that it was the person, not just somebody impersonating them. They suggested the Alanis list and they promised that young people have founders. That was a question.
Oh.
And then, you know, they give their top 3. I'll admit 2 of them I don't really know. So maybe the young folk are like not like devouring the 90s output. I should look it up. Maybe I do know that. Hans Klein was number 1, which was my number 2. And then they said, I love your podcast so much. It's the highlight of my week.
Oh.
To which I would like to say, thank you. That's really flattering. But also, I'm so sorry.
I know. We got to see if we can get this person some better things for their week.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I feel like if we were going to make a top 3, we shouldn't be number 1. So...
we weren't in the world's sexiest podcasters list. Just fucking Rob.
Every time, I felt like the trophy was just snatched out of our hands on that one.
Fucking Kelsey's.
Seriously, those fucking guys. All right, send us your top 3 commercial jingles. Like I said, you can text us with the fan mail thing. There's a link somewhere, podcast description, whatever. You can also go to our website, which is purplerockpodcast.com. You can join the comments section there and just tell us there. And then you'll get a bunch of other people telling you theirs in response. It's fun. That's why we have a comment section. Anything else we need to address, Andy?
I almost went the Meow Mix.
I debated that one too, but it's so old.
It's so old, but we are. So, you know,
it's true.
Obviously somebody can include it in their list, or at the very least, if you guys are like, oh my God, the Meow Mix. Meow, 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 meow. One lyric. Perfect.
That was the thing that was like impressive for me. It's like you took one word and you made a banger. So.
But it just couldn't crack that 3. That 3 was solid. All right. No, I got nothing else. Let's hit some theme music.
This is the copyright free